The neutral station called Harmony Point floated in empty space between Alliance and Dravith territory. It was old and worn, built centuries ago for meetings that rarely happened. Now it would host the most important conversation in galactic history. Hana waited in the main chamber with Ji Young beside her. The room was cold. The lights were dim. Everything felt heavy with tension. The door opened. 3 Dravith walked in. Their leader was tall and lean, with darker red skin than most of his kind. His eyes were tired. "I am Sorval," he said. "You are the humans." "We are," Hana replied. "Thank you for coming." "I did not come for you. I came for my people." Sorval sat down across from them. "Speak your piece, human. Convince me that this is not a waste of time." Hana took a deep breath. "Why are you fighting this war?" Sorval looked confused. "What?" "It is a simple question. Why did the Dravith Collective start this war 50 years ago?" The Dravith was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. "Our homeworld is dying. The sun that warmed our ancestors grows cold. Within 300 years, our world will be nothing but ice and death. We needed new worlds. New homes. The Alliance would not share." Ji Young leaned forward. "The Alliance has thousands of habitable worlds. Why would they refuse? They feared us. Our strength. Our numbers. They saw us as a threat. So when we asked for help, they turned us away." Bitterness filled Sorval's voice. "What were we supposed to do? Watch our children freeze?" Hana understood now. The war was not about conquest. It was about survival. What if the Alliance helped you now? Sorval laughed without humor. After 50 years of killing each other? They would never agree. They might. If the right people asked. If the right reasons were given. Hana spread her hands. The Alliance is tired of war too. Everyone is tired. What if we could end this and save your people at the same time? The negotiation lasted 3 days. There were arguments, accusations, moments when everything almost fell apart. But Hana was patient. She listened more than she spoke. She helped both sides see each other as beings instead of enemies. In the end, Sorval agreed to a proposal. If the hardliners led by Overlord Marix were defeated, his faction would accept peace. The Alliance would share habitable worlds. The Dravith would have a future without war. But Marix will never surrender, Sorval warned. He would rather burn the galaxy than admit defeat. Then we will defeat him, Hana said. And you will help us. Sorval nodded slowly. This is a betrayal of everything I was taught. My own people will call me a traitor. History will call you a hero, the one who saved his species from destruction. When Hana returned to Alliance space, she brought Sorval's faction with her. 40 warships and 10,000 soldiers switched sides in a single day. The news shook both civilizations, but there was no time to celebrate. Overlord Marix launched his offensive 3 days ahead of schedule. 800 Dravith warships emerged from hyperspace near Valorian Prime, the heart of the Alliance. They came to end the war with fire and blood. Yun-Ho had prepared for this moment. Every tactic, every strategy, every trick humans had ever used in war. All ships, engage defensive formation Alpha, he commanded. Remember your training. Fight smart. Fight together. The battle began with chaos. Dravith ships outnumbered the Alliance fleet 3-1. Missiles and plasma bolts filled space with death, but the Alliance did not break. They had learned from humans. They were no longer predictable. Dongwook led his fighter wings straight into the heart of the Dravith formation. They flew patterns that seemed random but were perfectly coordinated. Enemy gunners could not track them. Hit the command ship's communications array, Dongwook ordered. Blind them. His fighters struck fast and vanished before retaliation came. Subin activated electronic warfare systems on a scale never attempted before. Half the Dravith fleet suddenly could not talk to the other half. Orders became confused. Formations fell apart. Tyson coordinated ground teams already positioned on nearby moons and stations. They struck at supply ships and refueling points. The Dravith advance slowed as ships ran out of ammunition and fuel. Overlord Morix raged on his command ship. "This is impossible. They are fighting like us. How did they learn?" His answer came when Sorval's faction appeared behind the Dravith lines. 40 warships opened fire on their former allies. The attack was perfectly timed. The hardliner fleet found itself caught between two forces. "Traitors!" Morix screamed. "I will destroy you all." But his control was slipping. Some of his captains had families on Sorval's ships. Some had secretly agreed with the peace faction. When forced to choose between endless war and hope, they hesitated. And in battle, hesitation meant death. The alliance pressed forward. Ships that had retreated for 50 years now advanced with confidence. Officers who had accepted defeat now tasted victory. Dongwook's fighters reached Morix's command ship. They disabled its engines and weapons in a surgical strike that left it crippled but intact. "Overlord Morix," Yunho's voice echoed through every speaker. "Your fleet is broken. Your allies have abandoned you. Surrender now and save what remains of your forces." Morix refused. He ordered his personal guard to fight to the death. But when the alliance breached his ship, he was captured alive. The war was over. 3 months later, a peace treaty was signed in the same council chamber where Yunho and Hana had first addressed the alliance. Representatives from every species attended. Even Sorval was there, now recognized as a hero instead of a traitor. High Arbiter Thiessen spoke the final words. "Today we end 50 years of darkness. Today we choose to build instead of destroy. Today we thank those who showed us another way." He turned to the human delegation. "When you arrived, we saw you as primitives. We expected nothing. But you gave us everything. You gave us victory. You gave us peace. You gave us hope." Elder Mithros, an ancient Valorian historian who had studied thousands of civilizations, rose to speak. "In my long years, I have seen many species rise and fall. I have seen empires crumble and cultures fade. But I have never seen what I see today. A young species barely emerged from its birth world, changing the destiny of an entire galaxy." He looked at the humans with something like wonder. "You are the bridge species, the ones who connect what was with what will be. The galaxy will never be the same, because you are part of it now." 5 years. Past. Yun-Ho stood on the observation deck of a colony world named New Hope. It was one of the worlds given to the Dravith as part of the peace treaty. Now it held communities from every species. Hana joined him, sliding her hand into his. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I am thinking about how far we have come. When we first arrived, they wanted to use us as shields. Now we are building worlds together." She smiled. "We did something good." Below them, children played in a green park. Fenari cubs chased Volrian younglings around a fountain. And there, right in the middle, a group of human children played with young Dravith. The same species that had been mortal enemies 5 years ago were now building sandcastles together. "Look at them," Hana said. "They do not see enemies. They just see friends. That is how it should be." Lieutenant Vaisha approached them. She had been promoted many times since Keth 7. Now she commanded her own ship. "There you are," she said. "The celebration is starting. They want the heroes to speak." Yunho laughed. "I am no hero. I just did what needed to be done. That is exactly what heroes say." Vaisha smiled. "Come, the galaxy is waiting." They walked together toward the celebration hall. Music from a dozen different worlds filled the air. Laughter echoed from every direction. Species that had never trusted each other now danced side by side. Yunho took the stage and looked out at the crowd. Thousands of faces from hundreds of worlds, all of them looking at him with hope. When humanity first reached the stars, he said, we wondered if we would find friends or enemies. We found both. But we also found something more important. We found a family. He paused to let the words sink in. We did not win this war alone. We won it together. Every species, every soldier, every person who chose hope over fear. That is our strength. Not weapons, not tactics, just the simple belief that we are better together than apart. The crowd cheered. Some cried. Some embraced strangers who had become friends. Hana took his hand as they left the stage. You know, she said, they will tell stories about this. About us. About what humanity did. Yunho nodded. I hope they tell the truth. That we were just ordinary people who refused to give up. That is the most extraordinary thing of all. They walked into the sunset of a new world. Part of a new galaxy, where the tide of war had finally turned toward peace. And humanity walked beside them. Forever changed, forever changing, and forever a part of something greater than themselves. The victory at Kef 7 spread across the galaxy like fire in dry grass. Within days, everyone knew what had happened. A small force using strange new tactics had defeated a Dravith garrison with almost no casualties. It seemed impossible. It seemed like a miracle, but it was just the beginning. Yunho spent the following months training Alliance officers. He taught them about guerrilla warfare, psychological operations, and tactical flexibility. He showed them how to think like hunters instead of targets. Not everyone was willing to learn. Many old officers refused to abandon their traditions. They called human tactics dishonorable and cowardly. They said true warriors face their enemies directly. Council member Drothax was the loudest voice against the humans. He was a Valorian politician with powerful connections. He feared what humans might become if they gained too much influence. Today they teach us to fight, Drothax warned the council. Tomorrow they will teach us to think like them. And then what will we become? Copies of these aggressive, cunning creatures? But for every voice against humans, two spoke in their favor. General Yanara, a respected Valorian military leader, became one of humanity's strongest supporters. I have watched humans work, she told the council. They do not seek power. They seek victory. They seek to end this war. That is what we need. Not pride. Not honor. Victory. While the political battles raged, the real work continued. Hana traveled to liberated colonies to help rebuild. She worked beside alien doctors, engineers, and teachers. She listened to their stories. She learned their hopes and fears. On one colony, she met an elderly Fenari named Rothuk. He had lost his entire family to the Dravith. He had every reason to hate. But when Hana sat with him, he asked her a strange question. Do humans know how to forgive? Hana thought about Earth's history. The wars, the hatred, the long struggles toward peace. We have learned, she said carefully. It takes time. It takes effort. But yes, we know how to forgive. Rothuk nodded slowly. That gives me hope. Perhaps when this war ends, we can learn too. Inji, the human medical officer, established clinics on 3 different worlds. Her team treated everyone who needed help. Fenari soldiers, Valorian civilians, even wounded Dravith prisoners. Some Alliance members questioned this. Why heal the enemy? Because suffering does not care about borders, Unji answered. Because every life has value. And because when this war ends, we will need to live with our former enemies. We cannot do that if we treat them as monsters. Her words spread. Other doctors began following her example. Small acts of kindness multiplied across the alliance. Ji Young continued her work on Dravith communications. The more she listened, the more she learned. The collective was fracturing. Different factions argued about the war. Some wanted to continue fighting forever. Others whispered about peace. One day, she intercepted a transmission that changed everything. Yunho, you need to hear this. She played the recording for him. A Dravith commander named Serval was speaking to his officers. His words were careful, but his meaning was clear. This war serves only the Overlord. Our soldiers die. Our worlds suffer. Our children grow up knowing only conflict. There must be another way. Yunho listened to the recording 3 times. Then he went to find Thiessen. We can win this war without destroying the Dravith, he said. There are factions within their collective who want peace. If we reach out to them, we might be able to end this quickly. Thiessen was quiet for a long moment. You want us to negotiate with the enemy. With part of the enemy. The part that is tired of fighting. The part that remembers what peace felt like. This goes against everything we know. The Dravith are not to be trusted. No one is to be trusted until someone takes the first step. Let us be the ones who take it. The proposal went before the full council. Drothax exploded with rage. This is insanity. The Dravith killed billions of our people. They destroyed our worlds. And now these humans want us to invite them to talk? To share our table with murderers? Yunho remained calm. The murderers of the hardliners led by Overlord Morix. The soldiers we are talking about are victims too. Forced to fight a war they did not choose. If we can separate them from Morix, we weaken our real enemy. And if it is a trap, then we lose nothing. We continue fighting as we were before. General Yanara stood up. I support this proposal, not because I trust the Dravith, but because I trust what I have seen from humans. They have not lied to us. They have not deceived us. They have only helped us. More voices joined hers. The vote was close, but it passed. A message was sent through secret channels. An offer to meet. A promise of safe passage. A chance for peace. The response came 3 days later. Serval agreed to talk. While preparations were made for the secret meeting, something else was happening across Alliance space. The victories continued. Human tactics spread from one fleet to another. Officers who had resisted at first began to see the wisdom and flexibility. Resistance movements grew behind Dravith lines. Oppressed species who had given up hope suddenly found it again. Stories of human soldiers who fought smart instead of dying uselessly inspired them. On one occupied world, a group of civilians managed to sabotage a Dravith supply depot. When captured, they told their interrogators why. The humans showed us that we do not have to accept defeat, that we can fight without throwing away our lives. If they can change the war, so can we. The Dravith interrogator did not know what to make of this. These were shopkeepers and farmers. They should have been broken. Instead, they smiled even as they faced death. You will lose, one prisoner said. Not today, not tomorrow, but you will lose, because the humans changed everything. Back on Valora Prime, Hana was preparing for the secret meeting. She would be the chief negotiator. Her ability to understand other cultures made her the perfect choice. Yunho was worried. This is dangerous. Serval could be setting a trap. Hana smiled at him. Everything we have done has been dangerous. Why stop now? Because I care about what happens to you. She touched his face gently. I know, and I care about you too. But this is bigger than both of us. This is about ending a war that has killed billions. If there is even a small chance of peace, we have to take it. Yunho could not argue with that dot the day before the meeting. news came from the front lines. The Dravith were massing forces. Overlord Marx was preparing a massive offensive. He knew about the growing unrest in his ranks. He planned to crush it with a victory so complete that no one would dare question him again. "He is coming for us," Tyson reported. "The largest fleet the Dravith have ever assembled. Over 800 warships." Yunho looked at the tactical display. It was overwhelming. "When will they arrive?" 14 days. Maybe less. 14 days. They had 14 days to make peace or prepare for the largest battle in galactic history. Hana gathered her team for the journey to the neutral station. "If I succeed," she said, "we might avoid this battle entirely. If I fail, at least we will know where the Dravith stand." "You will not fail," Yunho said. She kissed him gently on the forehead. "I will do my best. That is all any of us can do." Her ship launched into hyperspace. The fate of the galaxy went with her. Kef-7 hung in space like a wounded animal. The mining colony was built into an asteroid, its surface covered with industrial towers and defense platforms. Dravith patrol ships circled it constantly. Getting in would be difficult. Getting out would be nearly impossible. Dongwook studied the approach vectors from the cockpit of his fighter. He was the best pilot Earth had ever produced. He had flown through storms that killed other men. He had landed on worlds that should have torn his ship apart. But this was different. This time, he was not flying alone. "Strike team, check in," he said into his communicator. Voices answered from 11 other fighters. 4 humans. 8 Fenari volunteers who had agreed to follow the new tactics. Lieutenant Visha led the Fenari pilots. Her voice was steady despite her fear. "Fenari wing ready. Following your lead, human." On the command ship hiding behind a nearby moon, Yunho watched everything through holographic displays. Subin sat beside him, her fingers dancing over electronic warfare controls. Taesun coordinated ground team movements from another station. "Phase 1 begins in 3 minutes, Yunho announced. "Subin, are you ready?" "Ready." She smiled. It was a dangerous smile. The Dravith will not know what hit them. Exactly on schedule, Subin activated her electronic warfare package. Invisible waves of interference swept across Kef-7. Dravith communications dissolved into static. Sensor arrays went blind. Defense platforms lost their targeting locks. The Dravith garrison commander, a brutal officer named Throck, screamed at his technicians. "What is happening? Fix it." "We cannot, Commander. The interference is coming from everywhere and nowhere." While the Dravith scrambled to restore their systems, Dongwook led his strike team in low and fast. They came from the asteroid's shadow, using the rock itself as cover. "First target locked," Dongwook said. "Fuel depot on the eastern ridge." "Take the shot," Yunho ordered. 12 fighters fired as one. Plasma bolts struck the fuel depot. The explosion was massive. Fire rolled across the asteroid's surface, consuming everything in its path. "Hit confirmed," Taesun reported. "They just lost 40% of their fuel reserves." Before the Dravith could respond, Dongwook was already gone. His team scattered in 12 different directions, each pilot flying a different escape route. The patrol ships tried to pursue, but they could not chase everyone at once. "Split and reform at Point Delta," Dongwook commanded. "Give them nothing to target." Commander Throck's face turned dark with rage. "They attack like insects. Cowards." His second officer spoke carefully. "Commander, perhaps we should reinforce the remaining fuel depots." "No. They want us to scatter our forces. We will not fall for their tricks." All ships maintain formation around the central compound. It was exactly the wrong decision, and Ji-young had predicted it perfectly. "He is doing it," she reported from the command ship. He is keeping his forces together instead of protecting key targets. Yunho nodded. Phase 2. Ground teams move in. On the asteroid's surface, 4 human soldiers and 6 Fanari fighters emerged from hidden positions. They had landed hours ago during a sensor blackout, burying themselves in mining tunnels to avoid detection. Their leader, a human sergeant named Haiyan Wu, led them through underground passages toward the power station. The Dravith had no idea they were there. Power station in sight, Haiyan Wu whispered. 4 guards. Standard patrol pattern. Vaish's voice came through his earpiece. My people can take them silently. We learned some new techniques. Haiyan Wu smiled. The Fanari had been quick students. 3 weeks ago, they would have charged in with honor and died. Now they moved like shadows. 4 gods dropped without a sound. The ground team slipped inside the power station. Set charges, Haiyan Wu ordered. 30-second timer. We need to be gone before they know we were here. They planted the explosives and disappeared back into the tunnels. 30 seconds later, the power station erupted. Half the asteroid went dark dot in his command center. Throck watched his displays flicker and die. Impossible. How are they doing this? Commander, we are receiving reports of attacks across the colony. Supply depots, communication relays, ammunition storage. They are hitting everything. Throck slammed his fist against the wall. Then stopped them. We cannot find them. They strike and vanish. This was the human way of war. Never fight where the enemy is strong. Always attack where they are weak. Keep moving. Keep hitting. Never let them rest. Dongwook led another strike run, this time against the main hangar bay. His team destroyed half the Dravith fighters before they could launch. Scratch 5 enemy birds, he reported. Circling for another pass. Negative, Yunho said. Withdraw to secondary position. Let them think we are retreating. Dongwook understood. Copy that. Making it look good. The Dravith saw the fighters pulling back and cheered. They thought they had won. They were wrong. While the enemy celebrated, the ground team freed the prisoners. 800 civilians, mostly Fanari, but some from other species, were led through evacuation tunnels to hidden transport ships. Su-Bin kept the jamming active. Taesun coordinated movements with perfect timing. Everything worked together like parts of a single machine. Lieutenant Vaisha found herself fighting beside a human soldier named Minji. They moved through corridors together, covering each other without needing words. You fight differently, Vaisha said during a brief pause. Minji checked a weapon. Different how? You take risks. But they are calculated risks. You spend your lives carefully. Every life matters. Even in war. Vaisha thought about the old alliance tactics. Massive charges against fortified positions. Thousands of soldiers dying to gain a few meters of ground. Leaders who considered casualties acceptable as long as honor was preserved. I think I understand now, she said quietly. Why humans win? The final phase began at dawn. Yunho ordered all forces to converge on the main compound. But instead of attacking, they simply surrounded it. Commander Throck looked at the situation and saw doom. His fuel was gone. His power was gone. His communications were destroyed. His reinforcements could not arrive for hours. And now he was surrounded by enemies who had already proven they could strike anywhere without warning. We offered terms. Yunho's voice echoed through every speaker in the compound. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the rules of war. Continue to fight, and we will destroy you piece by piece. Throck wanted to refuse. His pride demanded he fight to the death. But he looked at his soldiers. They were tired, scared. Many were wounded from attacks they never saw coming. What guarantee do I have? You have my word. Throck laughed bitterly. The word of a human. Yes, the word of a human. We do not break our promises. There was a long silence. Then the compound doors opened. Commander Throck walked out with his hands raised. Behind him, 400 Dravith soldiers followed. The garrison of Keth 7 surrendered without another shot fired. On the command ship, Admiral Corvith watched through a video feed. His old eyes were wet. 800 civilians rescued, someone reported. Only 12 wounded on our side. No deaths. Corvith sat down heavily. In 60 years of war, he had never seen anything like this. A victory with almost no cost. Tell the humans, he said softly. Tell them they have earned my respect. When the Liberation Fleet returned to the Eternal Vigil, the hangar bay was packed with soldiers from every species. They had come to see the heroes. They had come to see the humans. Yunho stepped off the transport to thunderous cheering. Dong-wook and the other pilots were carried on shoulders. Even the Fenari soldiers who had fought beside humans were celebrated. But the loudest cheers came when the freed prisoners emerged. 800 people who had thought they would die as slaves. 800 people who were now going home. A little Fenari girl broke free from the crowd and ran to Vaishya. The lieutenant picked her up and held her tight. Is it true? The girl whispered. Did the humans save us? Vaishya looked at Yunho and Hana standing among the celebrating crowd. Yes, she said. They saved us. I think they are going to save everyone. 2 weeks passed on the flagship Eternal Vigil. The massive warship held over 10,000 crew members from 6 different species. It was the pride of the Alliance fleet. It was also a ship that had retreated from more battles than it had won. Yunho spent every waking hour studying the war. He sat in a small room filled with holographic displays. Battle reports floated around him like ghosts. 50 years of failure surrounded him on all sides. Taesun, his tactical analyst, worked beside him. The younger man had a gift for finding patterns. He could look at 1,000 data points and see the one that mattered. I found something, Taesun said. He pulled up a display showing Dravith attack patterns. Look at this. Every major offensive they launch follows the same preparation phase. They move supply ships into position exactly 72 hours before attacking. Yunho leaned forward. Every time? Every single time. For 50 years. And the Alliance never noticed? Taesun shook his head. They noticed. But their honor codes forbid attacking supply lines. They consider it dishonorable to strike at non-combat vessels. Yunho rubbed his face with his hands. So they watch the enemy prepare to kill them and do nothing. Exactly. In another room, Ji-young worked on a different problem. She was a communications officer, but her real skill was understanding how people thought. She had spent 2 weeks listening to captured Dravith transmissions. Ha-na found her staring at a frozen image of a Dravith soldier. The creature was humanoid but taller, with dark red skin and ridges of bone along its skull. Its eyes were completely black. You have been here for hours, Hana said. What do you see? Ji-young did not look away from the image. Fear. Fear? The Dravith? They are afraid. Ji-young pointed at the transmission data. Listen to how they speak when they think no one is listening. They talk about their children. They talk about going home. They talk about how tired they are of fighting. Hana sat down beside her. They have been winning for 50 years. Why would they be tired? Because winning does not mean they are happy. I have analyzed thousands of hours of their communications. Their soldiers are exhausted. Their people are told that the war will end soon, but it never does. And Ji-young hesitated. And what? There are factions. Different groups within the Dravith collective who disagree with the war. The transmissions mention arguments, conflicts. The collective is not as united as it appears. Hana's eyes widened. This could change everything. Maybe, if we can find a way to use it. Admiral Corvus called a meeting the next morning. He was old, even by Fenari standards. His fur had turned gray, and scars covered his muzzle from decades of battle. He had lost 3 sons to the Dravith. He had little patience for anything. "The humans have been studying our data," he announced to his officers. "Now they wish to speak. Let them." Yunho stood before 20 Alliance officers. Fenari, Valorians, representatives from 4 other species. None of them looked friendly. "Thank you, Admiral," Yunho began. "Over the past 2 weeks, my team has analyzed your entire war. We have identified several critical problems." "Problems?" An officer laughed. "We know our problems. We are losing." "Yes, but do you know why you are losing?" Silenced. Yunho activated a holographic display. "In 50 years, the Alliance has never launched a surprise attack. You always announce your intentions. You always follow predictable formations. You refuse to strike supply lines, communications relays, or civilian infrastructure. Those are the rules of war," Admiral Corvus growled. Honorable combat means nothing to the dead." The room went cold. Several officers stood up in anger. Corvus raised a paw to silence them. "Continue," he said. His voice was dangerous. Yundash-Ho did not back down. "The Dravith do not follow your honor codes. They use ambush. They target hospitals. They attack when you are weakest. And they have been defeating you for 50 years because they do not fight fair. So you want us to become like them?" A Valorian officer asked with disgust. "No, I want you to survive." Tayson stepped forward and changed the display. "There is a Fenari mining colony called Keth 7. It has been under Dravith occupation for 2 years. 800 civilians are being used as forced labor." Corvus' eyes narrowed. "We know of Keth 7. We have attempted 2 rescue missions. Both failed." "They failed because you attacked the same way both times," Tayson said. "Direct assault against fortified positions. The Dravith knew exactly what you would do. What would you do differently?" Yunho smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Everything?" He outlined the plan. Small strike teams instead of large fleets. Hit-and-run attacks instead of direct confrontation. Electronic warfare to blind the enemy. Targeting supply depots and fuel reserves instead of main forces. "You want us to fight like cowards," an officer spat. "I want you to fight like winners." Ji Young spoke up. "There is more. The Dravith garrison commander on Keth 7 is known for his temper. If we can make him angry, he will make mistakes. I have studied his communications. I know how to provoke him." "Psychological warfare," Hana added. "We attack their minds as well as their bodies. We make them doubt themselves. We make them fight among themselves." Admiral Corvus was quiet for a long moment. His old eyes looked at the 4 humans standing before him. He had commanded fleets for 60 years. He had followed the honor codes his entire life. And he had watched everything he loved burn. "You truly believe this will work?" he asked. "Yes," Yunho said without hesitation. "And if it fails?" "Then we will have lost one small mission. But if it succeeds, you will have proof that there is another way to fight this war." Corvus turned to his officers. "What say you?" The room was divided. Some refused outright. Others looked uncertain. But a few, the younger ones who had grown up knowing only defeat, nodded slowly. Lieutenant Vaisha, a young Fenari female with bright copper fur, spoke up. "My brother died at Keth 7. If there is any chance to free those people, I say we try." Other voices joined hers. "Not many, but enough." Corvus sighed. It was the sigh of a man who was about to break every rule he had ever followed. Very well. You will have your mission. But hear me, humans. If this fails, if you lead my soldiers into a trap, I will personally ensure that your species is never trusted again. Yunho met his gaze. Understood. As they left the meeting, Hana walked beside Yunho. He is afraid, she said quietly. Not of failure. He's afraid that you are right. That everything he believed was wrong. I know, Yunho said. That is why this mission cannot fail. We are not just fighting the Dravith. We are fighting 50 years of tradition. Tae-san joined them. The team is ready. Dongwook is already preparing the fighters. Subin has finished modifying the electronic warfare packages. Good. Yunho looked out a window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 800 civilians waited for rescue. They had no idea that help was coming. Let them know we launch in 6 hours, Yunho said. It is time to show the galaxy what humans can do. Hana touched his arm. Be careful. We cannot afford to lose you. He smiled at her. I do not plan to die. We have a war to win. 6 hours later, a small squadron of ships broke away from the Eternal Vigil and jumped into hyperspace. The Battle of Keth 7 was about to begin. The council chamber was silent when the two humans walked in. Yunho felt the eyes of a dozen different species watching him. Some looked curious. Most looked disappointed. The chamber sat at the heart of Valora Prime, a massive space station that served as the capital of the Galactic Alliance. Giant windows showed the stars outside. Floating platforms held representatives from 12 different worlds. Each species had fought together for 47 years against the Dravith Collective. Each species had lost countless lives. And now they had invited humans. Hana walked beside Yunho. She was a xenobiologist who had spent years studying alien cultures. She kept her face calm, but Yunho knew she felt the same tension he did. Earth had only made contact with the galaxy 3 years ago. To these ancient civilizations, humans were children playing at the adults' table. High Arbiter Thiessen rose from his central platform. He was Valorian, tall and thin with blue-gray skin and 4 eyes that moved independently. His voice echoed through the chamber with a translator making his words clear. Representatives of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Alliance in our darkest hour. We welcome you. The welcome did not feel warm. Yunho heard whispers from the other platforms. He caught words like primitives and desperate and waste of time. A Fenari commander named Prixel spoke next. The Fenari were covered in short brown fur and had faces that reminded Yunho of foxes. Prixel's voice was sharp with anger. High Arbiter, I must protest. We are losing this war. Our fleets burn. Our colonies fall. And you bring us creatures who discovered space travel only 2 centuries ago. What can they possibly offer? Thiessen raised a hand. Commander Prixel, we have tried everything else. Perhaps fresh eyes will see what we cannot. Fresh eyes? Prixel laughed. It was not a kind sound. We need soldiers, warriors. If these humans wish to help, let them fill our front lines. Their bodies are strong. They can absorb bullets meant for better species. Yunho felt Hana tense beside him. He touched her arm gently. Stay calm. He stepped forward and spoke clearly. High Arbiter, honored representatives, I am Yunho. I served as commander of Earth's Defense Corps. My colleague Hana is our leading expert on alien cultures. We came here to help end this war. Then you agree? Prixel asked. You will serve as infantry? No. The single word sent a shock through the chamber. Several representatives gasped. Even Thassan's 4 eyes widened. Prixel's fur stood up in anger. You refuse to fight? Then why are you here? Yunho kept his voice steady. I did not say we refuse to fight. I said we refuse to serve as infantry. We refuse to be thrown away as expendable bodies. That is not how we will help you. Then how? Thiessen asked. His voice held genuine curiosity. We offer you something more valuable than soldiers, Yunho said. We offer you strategy. Silence filled the chamber. Hannah took this moment to speak. For 2 weeks, we studied every battle report from your war, every engagement, every victory and defeat. We found something interesting. She paused to let her words sink in. In 47 years of war, your tactics have never changed. A Valorian general floated forward on his platform. Our tactics are honorable. They follow the codes of war established 10,000 years ago. Yes, Hannah agreed. And the Draveth know exactly what you will do before you do it. They study your honor codes. They exploit your predictability. That is why you are losing. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted over each other. Some called the humans insulting. Others demanded they be removed. Thiessen raised his hands for silence. It took several minutes before the noise died down. You speak boldly, Thiessen said to the humans. Perhaps too boldly. But tell me more. What would you do differently? Before Yunho could answer, the chamber doors burst open. A young Fanari officer rushed in, his fur wet with sweat and his eyes wild with fear. Hi, Arbiter. Emergency transmission from the outer colonies. A massive holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a star map with 3 worlds highlighted in red. As everyone watched, the red color spread like blood through water. The Draveth launched a surprise attack 6 hours ago, the officer reported. 3 colony worlds in the Kethrin system. All three have fallen. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Yunho saw representatives lower their heads. Some wept. The Fanari worlds had 8 million inhabitants. Had past tense. Commander Prixel's voice cracked when he spoke. My sister lived on Kethrin too. Her children. Hannah stepped toward him without thinking. Her hand reached out to touch his arm. Prixel flinched at first, then slowly relaxed. He looked at her with confusion. Why do you offer comfort? He asked. I insulted you moments ago. Because you are in pain, Hannah said simply. Your pain matters more than your words. Prixel stared at her for a long moment. Something changed in his eyes. Thiessen spoke again, his voice heavy. Another defeat. Another 8 million lives lost. At this rate, there will be nothing left to save within a decade. He turned to Yunho. You spoke of strategy. You spoke of doing things differently. Do you truly believe you can help us? Yunho looked around the chamber at the broken faces of a dozen species. He thought about Earth. He thought about what humanity had learned through centuries of conflict. He thought about the wars they had won against impossible odds. Yes, he said, but you must be willing to change. You must be willing to fight in ways you have never fought before. You must be willing to abandon traditions that are killing you. That is asking much, Thiessen said. I know, but the alternative is extinction. The word hung in the air like a death sentence, because that was exactly what it was. Thiessen closed all 4 of his eyes. When he opened them again, there was something new in them. Determination. Very well, humans. You will have your chance. Prove to us that your way can work. Show us what humanity can do. Yunho nodded. He felt the weight of 2 galaxies on his shoulders. Earth's future. The Alliance's survival. Everything depended on what happened next. We will need access to all your battle data, he said. Every report. Every analysis. Every failure. You will have it. And we will need to train with your officers. Teach them our methods. Thiessen hesitated. That will be more difficult. Many will resist. Then they will die following traditions that do not work. Yunho's voice was hard. High Arbiter, we cannot save you if you will not let us. Change is painful, but death is permanent. Hana added softly, we are not here to replace your ways. We are here to add to them, to give you options you never had before. The Dravith have been winning because they are unpredictable, and you are not. Let us help you become something they cannot anticipate. Thiessen looked at them both. Then he looked at the red marks on the star map. 3 more worlds gone. Millions more dead. Do what you must, he said finally. The Alliance is in your hands. As Yunho and Hana left the chamber, Prixel caught up with them. Human, he said to Hana, thank you for your kindness. Hana smiled gently. We are all fighting the same enemy. We should not fight each other too. Prixel nodded slowly. Perhaps there is more to your species than I thought. There is, Yunho said, and we are going to prove it.